Welcome to the Deep Dive Universal Show. Today we're taking a deep dive into a collection of insights that offer a multifaceted look at Elon Musk.
Right.
We're exploring key moments in his life, his business ventures, some unique personality traits, and his interactions with, well, politics and influence.
Yeah, and our mission here is really to unpack these details, help you gain a clearer understanding of what drives him and, the impact he's had across so many industries.
There's definitely a lot there.
Oh, yeah. Get ready for some surprising facts and perspectives, I think.
Okay, let's jump in. We should probably start with his background, right? How those early experiences might have shaped his approach to risk and life, really.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
And it seems like risk-taking might actually be a family trait. Goes back to his maternal grandfather, Joshua Haldeman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, described as a real daredevil adventurer type.
Okay, so it's in the blood, maybe. And you see signs early with Elon, too.
Definitely. His mother, May, she noticed this intense intellectual curiosity very early on. She even pushed for him to start nursery school younger, felt she had a, quote, genius child who just, needed someone else to talk to.
A genius child who was also messing around with rockets and explosives.
Small laugh. Yeah, that too. He's apparently said himself he's surprised he made it through childhood with all his fingers.
Wow. That definitely suggests an early comfort, maybe even a fascination, with pushing boundaries
Yeah.
and danger.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just physical risk. His relationship with his father, Errol, is described as incredibly complex, really challenging emotionally.
How so?
Well, marked by verbal abuse, Errol allegedly called him things like boring, stupid, and ugly.
Oof. That's harsh.
Yeah. And Elon made this fateful decision to move in with his father when he was 10.
A decision he later regretted, I read.
Deeply regretted, yeah. And the negativity apparently continued. When Elon left for America, his father supposedly told him, contemptuously, he'd never be successful.
That's a heavy thing for a parent to say.
Right. Especially when, later, his father apparently claimed it was his idea for Elon to go study in America.
That's another layer.
Mm-hmm.
What about his brother, Kimball?
Kimball described their father as dark human. He was reportedly appalled when Elon later bought a house for him, warning Elon not to do this to yourself. It paints a picture of just deep, unresolved tension.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder how much that kind of early criticism, that lack of support, maybe fueled his drive later on.
It's a powerful motivator, potentially. You also see hints of his future interests popping up in childhood trips, like one to America, where coin-op video games in motel lobbies were, quote, by far the most exciting thing.
Okay, so the seeds were there early.
Video games, obscure history, science fiction. Those interests were actually key for him finding his first real social acceptance in college, at Queen's.
With his friend Navaid Farouk.
Exactly. They bonded over that stuff. And those early computer strategy games like Civilization, Warcraft, they seem really insightful looking back.
How so?
He played for hours. Apparently, he'd describe moments where he just knew he'd win, telling Farouk, I am wired for war.
Wired for war. That's intense.
It really stands out. Kimball apparently observed that playing another game, Polytopia, taught him how Elon thinks when you remove empathy.
Remove empathy. Wow.
Yeah. And another close friend, Siobhan Zelis, once suggested he just sort of kept playing life as if it were that game after the game was unplugged.
So like a strategic mindset applied to everything.
Kind of, where losing hurts at first, maybe the first 50 times, as he put it, but you get used to it. You play with less emotion, become more fearless, take more risks. He said it himself. I am just wired for war, basically.
Okay, so this wired for war mindset, forged in these challenging family dynamics, this intense focus, how do they translate into his actual business ventures?
You see, it applied pretty directly, actually. In university, he was already zeroing in on physics and the areas that would define his career.
Like rocket.
Discussing laws of physics with a friend, even talking about sending a rocket to Mars, which, sounded like pure fantasy back then.
And electric cars, too, right?
Yeah.
Reading academic papers on batteries.
Yeah.
Wanting to make that California 10% electric car requirement a reality.
His internship seemed to reflect that, too.
Totally. Studying things like powerful supercapacitors for EVs, even space weapons tech, stuff he saw as radically new technology.
Then came Zip2, his first company.
Right. And he quickly got frustrated just being like an unbranded vendor for newspapers.
He wanted that direct link.
Exactly. Had this compulsion to sell directly to consumers without middlemen muddying things up.
Hmm.
He even led a rebellion against a merger with CitySearch. Shows that early drive to control the relationship.
That need for control seems to come up again with X.com, his vision for an all-in-one bank.
Definitely. And he invested heavily $12 million, leaving only about $4 million for himself. Shows how much he believed in it.
But it also led to clashes. Oh yeah. Early ones. Like the big technical debate with PayPal co-founder Max Levchin over Windows versus Unix, described as almost theological.
A tech holy war.
Pretty much. And friction really ramped up when a study showed the PayPal brand was more valuable. Peter Thiel ended up barring Musk from speaking for the company.
How did Musk take that?
Reportedly saw it as a massive insult to his honor, responded with this sort of super heroic, almost Homeric kind of vibe. It wasn't just business, it was personal, almost mythic.
Wired for war, indeed. So what about SpaceX? Was that also about competition from the start?
Interestingly, it's framed a bit differently initially. His first thought was more like a philanthropic mission.
Philanthropic, how?
To inspire the public, maybe boost NASA funding. He first planned something relatively modest, like sending a small greenhouse to Mars, the Mars Oasis project, estimated under $30 million.
A greenhouse. Not quite Starship.
Not quite. He even considered sending mice first, but apparently rejected that as potentially tragicomic.
Chuckles. Probably wise.
Right.
So when did it shift?
It seems to have evolved quickly, especially after his challenging attempts to buy old missiles in Russia back in 2001, 2002.
What happened there?
The price kept going up, and the Russians apparently taunted him, asking things like, "Oh, little boy, you don't have the money."
Okay, that sounds like something that would trigger the wired for war mode.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
And the approach at SpaceX itself, that iterative design.
Build, test, blow up, repeat.
Exactly. Rockets, engines rapidly prototyped, tested, blown up, revised, tried again. He told engineers, build one engine, fire it if it works, put it on a rocket, and fly it.
Just go for it.
And push engines until they broke to find the limits. Being a private company let them take risks, flout rules maybe, that others couldn't.
But that must have led to some spectacular failures early on, like with Falcon 1.
Oh, yeah. There was the B-nut issue, corroded from the sea air at the launch site, cracked, caused a failure where the booster actually bumped the second stage.
Ouch. Textbook hardware failure.
It was. And they did get more cautious after the first failure, tested more carefully. But still, the third flight failed too. Lost the rocket, the payload.
Didn't someone yell something right before?
Apparently an engineer shouted, "Third time a charm," literally seconds before it crashed.
Oh, the irony is painful.
Isn't it? But even after a failure like that, where the team's first reaction was reportedly, "Man, we're doomed," Musk insisted they fix the rocket right there, on site at Kwajalein.
Turned despair into determination.
Gene 2, that despair shifted to, "We're going to make this work." That resilience is a constant theme.
He even sued NASA, controversially.
Over a no-bid contract given to another company, Kistler. Ignored advice not to, reportedly felt it was wrong and corrupt.
And included internal NASA emails in the lawsuit. That's aggressive.
Very. But despite that whole episode, SpaceX did later win cargo contracts with NASA, which eventually led to flying humans.
Showing some foresight there, too.
You could argue that. He apparently included a window in the Dragon capsule design from early on, preparing for carrying people. And bringing in Gwynne Shotwell as president was key.
To handle the business side.
Exactly. Dividing responsibilities, he focused more on engineering design, she handled management, finance, government stuff. A crucial partnership, it seems.
Okay, let's shift to Tesla. How did that come together?
Yeah.
Different origin story.
A bit. It started with Martin Eberhard, who had the idea, the name, but no funding. He got connected to Musk.
And Musk jumped in.
He met with Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning and was urged to team up with J.B. Straubel. The pitch was apparently direct. "Come on, you've got to do this. It'll be a perfect fit." The five of them agreed to be called co-founders.
And a key part of Tesla's success seems to be Musk's insistence on vertical integration, making their own stuff.
Absolutely fundamental. Instead of just piecing together supplier parts, they aimed to control their own destiny, quality, costs, the whole supply chain.
Even though it's way more complex.
Right. And his focus wasn't just technical. He apparently spent significant time on the Roadster's aesthetics, agonized over details, even got honored for design work later.
Didn't he insist on a costly change to the doors?
Yeah, the Roadster door. He wanted it enlarged for easier entry. A $2 million revision. Correct call, apparently, but expensive.
Highlights that willingness to spend on what he thinks matters. But funding Tesla sounds like it was a nightmare.
Oh, incredibly challenging. Sequoia Capital famously passed, supposedly calling competing with Toyota Mission Impossible.
There's that Mission Impossible theme again. Seems to attract him.
It really does seem that way. Tesla barely survived 2008. Part of it involved, controversially, dipping into customer deposits for cars they hadn't delivered yet.
Whoa, was that legal or ethical?
Some executives felt the deposits should be in escrow. His argument was reportedly blunt. We either do this or we die. Survival mode.
That must have been unbelievably stressful, pleading with friends and family for cash.
He was. Reportedly asked his brother Kimball, who was also nearly bankrupt, to invest $375,000 Kimball was clinging to in Apple stock. Kimball did it. His banker was furious. And then, ironically, the banker's bank went under too shortly after. Just shows the absolute desperation of that fall of 2008.
But they pulled through, got government loans.
Important note there, not the TARP bailout money GM and Chrysler got. These were different DOE loans, plus investment from Daimler.
And the Model S launch in 2012 must have felt like vindication.
Huge moment. Hundreds of people, the governor, celebrating at the Fremont factory, a place that had been bankrupt, now employing 2,000 people. A real phoenix from the ashes story.
That intensity clearly applies to the business, but let's talk about his management style. It's often described vividly.
He's cultivated this hardcore culture right from Zip2 days, not just talk. He sent an email about it for Model S production.
What did it say?
Something like, please prepare yourself for a level of intensity greater than anything most of you have experienced before. Revolutionizing industries is not for the faint of heart. Sets the tone.
That's clear. All right. But it also comes with stories of him being pretty cold, even rough.
Yeah, there's the story about firing a young engineer, Gage Coffin, on a Saturday night, fumbled an answer about a robot arm.
And Musk reportedly said,
"You're an idiot. Get the hell out and don't come back." And then Coffin's manager and his manager were apparently fired in the following weeks. That's extreme.
definitely not standard HR practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yet sometimes he takes responsibility, like with the automation mistake.
Right. He tweeted about excessive automation at Tesla, adding, "To be precise, my mistake. Humans are underrated."
And he physically marked machines for removal.
With orange spray paint, yeah.
Yeah.
Described the process as becoming like a game, laughing with childlike humor. It's this really strange mix of intense frustration and something else.
There's also this idea of his demon's corner.
Uh-huh. A list for people who trigger a cold anger in him. His father is supposedly number one.
And number two.
Martin Eberhard, the Tesla co-founder. Musk reportedly called hiring him the worst mistake I ever made in my career.
Wow. How did Eberhard react to that kind of accusation?
He sued Musk for libel, reportedly said something like, "What the fuck? The company that Mark and I started turned him into the richest man in the world. Isn't that enough already?" You can feel the bitterness there.
Yeah, understandably. Some people apparently wonder if this intensity, this difficulty with people, relates to him being somewhere on the spectrum.
That perspective is mentioned, yeah, suggesting maybe he just doesn't have any connection with people at all.
But Musk has a counter-argument.
As presented, yeah. Basically that trying to be everyone's friend is debilitating for a leader. His approach, harsh as it seems, prioritizes the mission, the enterprise, over individual feelings, frames it as a strategic necessity.
And he definitely takes control when he feels it's needed, like taking the CEO job at Tesla himself in 2008.
After several CEO changes in a year, yeah, told the previous guy, "I've got to have both hands on the steering wheel." Very direct.
His personal relationships seem to echo that intensity too.
Yeah.
Volatility.
Yeah, proposing to Tallulah Riley just weeks after they met, sending her 500 roses on her first day filming a movie. Big gestures.
But she also described his emotional range as extreme.
Going from very cold to feeling things in a very pure way, yeah. And Kimball's observation is quite poignant.
About him falling for people who are
really mean to him. Kimball reportedly said it's really sad. Mentioned they're often beautiful but have a very dark side, and Elon knows that they're toxic, referencing Amber Heard specifically.
in the story of meeting Grimes while in an elevator with Amber Heard.
Described as super weird, yeah. Their first date sounds unconventional too.
Walking the factory floor all night.
And demonstrating autopilot by taking his hands off the wheel and covering his eyes made Grimes think, oh shit, this guy's fucking crazy. Reinforces that living on the edge vibe.
Seems consistent, yeah. The rift with his daughter Jenna is noted as being especially painful for him.
More painful than anything since his first child's death, reportedly. But his brother Kimball seems like a constant.
A grounding force.
Appears so, sticking by him, telling him hard truths, reconciling after rough patches, sometimes apparently even cooking during tense meetings to break the tension. Seems like a vital anchor.
Especially given the descriptions of his mood swings during tough times like 2017-2018.
Called the most hellacious period, marked by depression, stupor, giddiness, manic energy, sometimes falling into almost catatonic trances.
Did he recognize it himself?
He reportedly asked a friend if he'd ever gone bananas. She apparently said that period was the only time she'd used that word to describe him, saw her cry. It adds this layer of, the personal cost of that relentless drive.
Moving from the personal to his broader impact, his ventures and influence grew massively, often intersecting with government.
Yeah, and not always smoothly. The Solar Roof Project, for instance, he reportedly got incredibly frustrated, called meetings daggers in my eye.
Reacted badly to a prototype.
Fury, apparently. Called it total fucking shit. Horrible. What were you thinking? Installers also reportedly faced really tough conditions, health issues.
But financially, things took off.
Mm-hmm.
By early 2022, richest man on Earth.
The valuations were staggering. Tesla at $1 trillion, SpaceX $100 billion, Boring Company over $5 billion, Neuralink hitting $1 billion. That scale inevitably brings huge influence.
And a move to Texas.
Sold the California homes, moved, reportedly rented a small place from SpaceX initially, spent time in Austin but got doxxed after a newspaper report, people trying to get into his friend's house he was borrowing.
The material also mentions connections between his interests and government figures. Commerce Secretary Letnick.
Reportedly close to Elon Musk, appeared on Fox News telling viewers to buy Tesla, highlights those potential links.
And under the Trump administration, specific benefits for his companies are mentioned.
Right. Federal agencies exploring or entering new contracts, Customs and Border Protection looking at Starlink for surveillance towers.
And subsidies.
SpaceX got roughly $900 million in Rural Digital Opportunity Fund subsidies for satellite broadband. This was described as a reversal of a prior FCC decision that denied them.
That reversal is significant.
Also mentioned is the FCC opening an investigation into a SpaceX competitor, EchoStar, which held licenses SpaceX reportedly coveted, and the Pentagon considering SpaceX for military cargo transport, guided by a former SpaceX employee. It suggests, a pattern of favorable interactions.
The material also claims the administration hamstrung oversight agencies.
Yeah, gutting staff, embedding people loyal to Musk, guided largely by Musk's own DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency initiative.
Which he led.
As an unpaid advisor, yeah.
Special government employee status. Came after attending Trump's inauguration in January 2025, according to this account.
And the savings claimed by DOGE were disputed. Hugely. Initial hopes of $2 trillion a year, halved, then reported savings of $175 billion, but a BBC analysis supposedly found items for only $61.5 billion, evidence for just $32.5 billion, all while a major spending bill added trillions to the debt. So the actual impact versus the claims seems murky.
There's also mention of legislative pushes, like the Genius Act,
which reportedly included a carve-out allowing companies like Musk's X Money to issue their own stablecoins, suggests influence on actual legislation.
And securing foreign deals.
Also noted, sometimes reportedly after using access gained through Trump administration discussions. Neuralink trials announced in Abu Dhabi during a presidential trip, a pending Starlink deal in Bangladesh after meeting the PM.
After Trump's 2024 victory, the material says Musk was a frequent presence at Mar-a-Lago.
Weighing in on staffing, other matters, reportedly joined a call between Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine, whose military depends heavily on Starlink.
That's a significant detail. Proposed SpaceX execs for Defense Department roles.
Also reported, he hosted Trump for an interview on X, pitched his Government Efficiency Commission again, joined the White House as an unpaid advisor.
The salute incident is mentioned, too.
Yeah, starking outrage at an inaugural event in January 2025. Then concerns arose about conflicts of interest, given DOGE targeted agencies that regulated or did business with his companies.
How was that addressed?
Trump reportedly said he'd bar Musk from any government work creating a conflict. Musk attended the first cabinet meeting, where Trump apparently called his government work a sacrifice.
But despite all that closeness, a public feud erupted later.
Yeah, Steve Bannon reportedly called it inevitable after Trump denied Musk an extension to stay on, citing national security concerns.
And Musk's reported response sounds
provocative.
Extremely. Reportedly trolled Trump by suggesting SpaceX would decommission the Dragon spacecraft, the one ferrying astronauts. Could strand people, Mess up moon landing plans?
Did he walk that back? Yeah, apparently backtracked on X later. Okay, we won't decommission Dragon. But it highlights the stakes, especially since SpaceX is also building hundreds of spy satellites for the Pentagon, a very complex, volatile relationship, it seems.
Okay, let's turn to his more recent ventures. AI is clearly a huge focus, and then, of course, Twitter.
AI seems like a core driver now. He invested early in DeepMind, $5 million, just to monitor AI development.
Why?
Reportedly, after a conversation where he realized AI could surpass humans, potentially decide to, you know, get rid of us, existential threat stuff,
So he started pushing for AI safety.
hosted discussions with other tech figures, trying to counter Google, promote safety, reportedly met President Obama, felt Obama got it, but wouldn't really act.
And Neuralink ties into this.
Absolutely. The core motivation is described as creating a generalized input-output device for the brain. Partly as a defense, a way to merge with AI, guard against it running amok.
But also shorter-term medical goals.
Hugely ambitious ones. Restoring vision even for people born blind. Restoring full-body functionality for spinal cord injuries. He describes these as potentially miraculous.
And the Optimus robots at Tesla, where do they fit?
He apparently sees them as a potential main driver of Tesla's profits eventually, believes they'll work harder than humans, could solve population growth issues.
He pushed for specific design details.
Like human-like wrist capability, challenged the team to make a shitty design more efficient using cheap car parts they already knew how to make, well, like liftgate actuators. He thinks humanoid robots will just uncork the economy to quasi-infinite levels.
A very grand vision.
Yeah.
His AI concerns aren't just existential, though, right? He's criticized OpenAI specifically.
Oh, yeah. Expressed real concern that OpenAI, which started as a nonprofit counter to Google, became closed source, maximum profit, effectively controlled by Microsoft.
He donated to the nonprofit initially.
Yes, and reportedly questioned how it turned into a $30 billion for-profit entity, called it a ruthless corporate monopoly. Feels like a betrayal of the original mission he backed.
And his own AI ambition.
Is to someday create a maximum truth-seeking AI. One that cares about understanding the universe, and because of that, would want to preserve humanity. He links it back to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Interesting mix of sci-fi philosophy and tech. Okay, shifting gears hard now. Twitter. That whole acquisition was something else.
Eventful is an understatement. Started with secretly buying up shares,
And then the infamous funding secured tweet.
which led straight to an SEC investigation, a trading halt. He reportedly described the whole situation later as super tough, really bumming me out. Said he had trouble sleeping.
What was his stated goal? Why buy Twitter or X?
The vision was for a more inclusive public square, and also an accelerant for his old X.com idea, a combined financial platform and social network, potentially helping democracy, civil discourse.
But he clashed with the existing management immediately.
Don't feel drastic action is needed, reportedly said. Fixing Twitter by chatting with Parag won't work. Called the then CEO Parag Agrawal, not a fire-breathing dragon, clearly wanted a different style.
The board pushed back.
A hostile offer reportedly included clauses stopping him from criticizing the company publicly. He obviously rejected that. He was set on fixing it by acquiring it.
And the way he closed the deal was aggressive, firing top execs immediately.
Forced to fast close specifically to fire them for cause just before their stock options vested, reportedly.
How did he justify that?
By the high price he paid and his conviction that management had misled him, saw a $200 million differential in the cookie jar, as it was put. Classic confrontational move.
And then he dove right into the weeds, looking at source code.
On closing day, immersed himself, tasked a team with making deep cuts in engineering, reportedly felt Twitter was a shit show, engineers producing very little code, called it a ridiculously low bar, a comedy show.
Ouch. He also wanted to change the culture, get rid of negativity.
Told his team to root out people making very snarky comments, and then implemented that really controversial opt-in choice for remaining employees.
The hardcore pledge.
Exactly. Framed it like Shackleton's Antarctic expedition, you opt in to extreme difficulty. Reportedly rejected an opt-out approach, engineers suggested to try and avoid more firings.
The whole Twitter X era has been defined by controversy since then.
Absolutely. The Twitter files release, for example, seen completely differently depending on your viewpoint transparency, preventing misinformation, repressing dissent, collusion. Depends who you ask.
And banning those plane tracker accounts caused a huge stir.
Yeah, and his tweet about Dr. Fauci, "My pronouns are prosecute Fauci," drew massive outrage.
Even from Kimball.
Kimball reportedly told him it wasn't okay, and some observers noted it wasn't just anti-woke, but maybe skittering at times on the edges of the rabbit holes of conspiracy theories, linking to claims he'd retweeted from RFK Jr.
How did Musk defend the plane tracker bans?
He reportedly tied it directly to doxing his plane's location and an incident where his son was attacked, framed it as a safety issue. This more public, often confrontational persona also reflects a clear political shift over time.
From supporting Obama and Clinton initially,
To now railing against progressive Democrats, he attributes it himself to the woke mind virus. Plus, public clashes with politicians like Elizabeth Warren, who he reportedly called a freeloading grifter, and Lorena Gonzalez, who famously tweeted, "Feck Elon Musk."
his view on California changed drastically too.
Yeah, stated that California went from the land of opportunity to the land of litigation, regulation, and taxation. Helps explain the move to Texas and his public criticisms.
Looking back at everything, he's often compared to Steve Jobs.
That comparison comes up a lot. Both seen as brilliant, abrasive taskmasters, driving people to do things they thought impossible.
But the material notes a difference too,
Yeah.
regarding drama.
Yeah, that both Jobs and Musk seemed drawn to drama. Unlike someone like Tim Cook, who reportedly has an instinct for diffusing it, a steady moral compass.
It does seem like Musk almost cultivates drama, or at least operates constantly on the edge.
One former partner reportedly suggested he needs drama for stimulation, noting Elon loves fire, and sometimes it burns him. His life needs to be interesting, edgy. It really does bring to mind that line from Gladiator.
Are you not entertained? Is that not why you are here?
Exactly.
So, as we've sort of unpacked all these insights today, a really complex picture emerges, doesn't it?
Definitely. You see this figure driven by these incredibly ambitious, almost existential goals, marked by really challenging early life experiences that seem to have forged this resilient risk-taking, but yeah, sometimes abrasive personality.
And that intensity just plays out everywhere.
Mm.
In his businesses, his relationships, his growing involvement in politics.
Yeah, from navigating near bankruptcy, rockets blowing up, to just challenging norms constantly in business and government. It's a picture of someone always pushing boundaries, often with huge success, obviously.
But also creating enormous friction, controversy along the way. That interplay between the wired for war mindset and his, grand vision for humanity's future is really striking.
It really is.
So when you consider the sheer scale of it all, reshaping cars, space, thinking about brain interfaces, influencing global discourse, how do you, listening, evaluate the impact of someone like this, so singular, so powerful, often so controversial?
And given everything we've touched on today, is that price the world pays for this kind of accomplishment, as one acquaintance reportedly put it. Is that price worth it?
Yeah, that's definitely something worth mulling over as you go about your day.